Who is the best sporting shot in the country? We find out at the British Open at Barbury in Wiltshire.
I thought I was actually a couple of light going around the 75 bird tournament, but managed to come out okay and make the final.
New Prime Minister, new agenda, maybe time to clear up the mess in gun licensing that Priti Patel left behind. We look at the options for the new Home Secretary.
And I think back in 2013, our Home Affairs Select Committee looked at firearms licensing as a burden on the police.
And staying with world leaders, if it's good enough for Nelson Mandela, it's good enough for Ollie Williams. He is stalking blesbok.
We can see springbok and we can see hartebeest. Just behind there is a nice white blesbok ram.
We're giving away an Odepro fox and rabbit shooting torch priced at £107. Plus we have a great new member offer from Bailey's Shooting and Countrywear. We have news, we have hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain.
Who is the best sporting clay shot in Britain? Well, that's what we're here to find out. We're at Barbury Shooting School on the Marlborough Downs in Wiltshire for the CPSA's British Open Sporting Championship. It's the climax of the sporting clay season, and the ground have really pushed the boat out to make sure it's an event to remember. The first thing that catches your eye as you approach the ground is this massive straw bale castle, which is the backdrop to the last stand of the course. Barbury's Josh Brown explains where the idea came from.
I can't really take the credit for that. So Ian Parker came to me from the CPSA and he said, Josh, I want to do something cool for Stand 15. Last year we had the trailer which we shot out of at the English, and he sort of said, Stand 15 is quite cool to do something different. So he said, well, in America we shot out of a straw bale castle. So I said, well, okay, we're anything up for a challenge. So the idea of shooting through inside a straw bale castle, so I was a little bit sort of health and safety wise, we weren't too sure. So we sort of thought, well, we'll make it as a feature, as a backdrop for the stand. And it's turned out, I mean, I don't know what I had in mind, but it's turned out a lot better than I thought. So yeah, it looks good.
Edward King from ASI is here with event sponsors Rizzini, and he's enjoying the atmosphere.
Literally wearing a Rizzini hat. Yes, Rizzini and ASI are sponsoring this competition again. I think this is the third year in a row that we've done it, and very much enjoying the opportunities that we're offered here. Being this style of competition with the numbers of top shooters that come here, it's a perfect place to meet known faces and meet some new ones and talk to them about the product. Well, we have got a couple of people shooting our guns out there. In the juniors and the Colts, Dan King has been out there doing very well. Barney Eastman has equally shot well, and we've got a couple of the seniors with Rizzini hats on, so quite exciting. And it's nice to see the Rizzini name getting a bit of traction now amongst the competition shooters.
There are more than 1,250 clay shooters booked in to shoot the competition, and among them you'll find all the top names in the sport, including legends like George Digweed, Richard Folds, Sam Green, Richard Bunning and Mark Windsor. On their day, any one of those is capable of winning the title, but the British Open is a long, hard slog, with a 120-bird qualifying course, then a 75-bird final, to get into the high-pressure six-man super final that will decide the ultimate winner. So which of them will emerge as King of the Castle and lift the historic Daily Telegraph Cup as the 2022 British Open Sporting Champion? As well as the signature castle, Josh has laid on an interesting variety of targets to test the shooter's skill. This dropping rabbit is proving difficult to hit. Then there's this tricky pair of crossers. Each day the top 4 from each class and top 3 in each category win a place in Sunday's final. One of the first to qualify is Richard Folds, shooting 112 out of 120 on the first day. As the week goes on, he's joined by the usual suspects, including George Digweed, Mark Windsor, last year's runner-up Sam Usher, and Browning shooter Sam Green. Running alongside the main sporting event is the British Open Sport Trap Championship, which concludes on Saturday. George Digweed has shot a phenomenal 97 out of 100, which is enough to win the title outright. No need for a shoot-off here.
Right, we're going to do heads and tails, yeah?
Sam Green takes third place and wins 250 cartridges, which he won't be needing, so he's giving them away to a local youngster. He just has to decide which one.
So there's 3 young lads there, and we just did heads or tails for the 250 cartridges for them. So, and the young lad won out the heads or tails, so I donate my 250 cartridges to the young lad. So, yeah, it gives something back. Yeah, shot 95 pretty much at the start of the week. Led for a couple of 3 days. I was happy with 95. Thought it was going to pretty much do the job right to the end. Then George comes along, goes and shoots 97, which is absolutely unbelievable. If you shot the course, people will appreciate what the 97 was out there. And then John Lee goes and shoots a 96 again today, so ended up third. But I'm happy with that. It's the end of the clay shooting season for me. I'm finished now. Now I've had a good year. I'm happy with what I've done this year. So we'll see what next year brings. It's time to go and shoot some game and just have a wind down now for the season.
Brittini shooter Barney Eastman is delighted to have won the Colts prize in the sport trap. He's only just scraped into the category by a few days.
This is my final major competition within the Colt category, and I'm junior next Friday. I thought it was a very, very good course, especially a sport trap layout. I think it eased you in very nicely towards the end. You had the last two layouts, I'd definitely say, were a little bit more tricky than others, but I really did enjoy it, yeah. Sporting, I thought it was one of the best courses I've shot all year. Yeah, the gravity rabbit, that was quite a tricky target I found, but I thought, yeah, it was a very good variety of targets overall, around both courses, sporting and sport trap. I'd say this is definitely one of the top shoots I've been to this year, and I'm looking forward to coming back as a junior next year and seeing what I can do then.
With the sport trap over, it's all eyes on the sporting. On Sunday morning, scores are reset to 0, and the finalists set off round the brand new 75-bird course with everything to play for. Maybe it's the wind and light drizzle, but the big names are dropping the odd target more than you'd expect. George Digweed shoots a 66, while Richard Bunning and Richard Folds fall behind with 65. So the hottest favourites have dropped out of the race. Top of the leaderboard are Browning shooter Chris Childerhouse and Sam Usher, both on 69. Close behind is Martin Myers on 68. And after a shoot-off, we have Martin Doughty, Nathan Skinner and Julian Freeman completing the lineup for the six-man super final. The contenders battle it out over 3 stands in front of an eager crowd of spectators. Chris drops 2 on the first stand, while Sam misses just 1 to take the lead. Nathan Skinner puts in a strong challenge on stand 2, closing the gap. But at the end, Sam is the clear winner. After coming runner-up to Brodie Woolard last year, he's king of the castle, the British Open Sporting Champion 2022. And he's over the moon.
I felt I'd shot pretty well on the Thursday when I competed in the qualifying event, but I didn't know how I felt being the top score, because often that can give you that little bit of extra pressure to come in today into the finals. But managed to just keep myself together, and I thought I was actually a couple of light going around the 75-bird tournament, but managed to come out okay and make the final. And yeah, really happy to come away with the title. First big major win, so yeah, really happy, and just want to say congratulations to everyone else who's managed to win category and class and the runners-up, and everyone shot so well, and the team here did such a good event. Yeah, really pleased.
Thank you everyone who took part in that. Next up, more miss than hit. It's David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. The Conservative Party has a new leader and the country has a new Prime Minister. Liz Truss beat Rishi Sunak to take the top job at number 10. After a trip to Balmoral to see the Queen to officially accept the role, she wasted no time in announcing her new cabinet. At DEFRA, she has swapped one animal rights nut for another. Out goes George Eustace. In comes Ranil Jayawardena, MP for North East Hampshire, who supports Carrie Johnson's Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation and who campaigned for the recent failing ivory ban. MPs at Westminster are hopeful the new Prime Minister will tackle the challenges facing the rural and field sports community.
I think there are some massive challenges for the country and certainly for rural communities, and we need to make sure that we look after those rural communities.
Well, rural communities are vital to the economy, and we have to make sure that as we invest in levelling up and increasing opportunities, we have to make sure that rural communities aren't left out.
For me, the reason I supported Liz Truss during the during the leadership election was because she was the strongest when it came to rural areas, about recognising that we need fairness in rural areas.
We need to talk as much about levelling up from urban to rural as we do north to south, and we need to really harness, as the CLA call it, the rural powerhouse.
Priti Patel may no longer be Home Secretary, but her draconian approach to firearms continues. The government has published the results of a consultation on firearms safety. It received almost 13,000 responses. Fewer than a quarter of these came from the shooting community. As a result of the consultation, the government is changing the rules. It plans to improve what it calls safety and security for both air rifles and full-bore rifles. It also plans to licence operators of miniature rifle ranges. On home-loading ammunition, the government says it will amend the 1968 Firearms Act to make it an offence to possess component parts with the intent to assemble unauthorised quantities of ammunition. Meanwhile, the National Small Bore Rifle Association is calling on shooters to make their voices heard. It's about the government's consultation on changing the law on lead ammunition. The NSRA does not agree with the proposals. It says they're disproportionate and in many areas not adequately evidenced. It also says the changes are unnecessary as there is legislation in place that covers lead contamination in water, food and animal feed. The NRSA is urging all shooters to complete the consultation questions, even if they can only answer a few. It warns that the anti-gun and anti-lead lobby will not hold back, and if their voice is louder than ours, we lose. UK shooting and countryside groups have commissioned new research into the economic, environmental and social values of shooting. BASC, Countryside Alliance, the National Gamekeepers Organisation, the Moorland Association and the Gun Trade Association are among those involved in the survey. They're calling on shooters to take part. The independent research specialists, Cognisance, will obtain facts and figures which will reflect the importance of shooting in the UK. The previous report in 2014 revealed at least 600,000 people in the UK shoot live quarry, clay pigeons or targets. The value of shooting was worth £2 billion to the UK economy. The new report will be published in 2023.
But actually, what's important about shooting is the money is spent back in the economy where you are. So actually it's a real driver of the rural economy, and if we want to get levelling up in this country, they have to accept that there are different ways this is done in the rural areas, and shooting is one of those drivers.
Greenpeace has built an underwater boulder barrier. It's about 30 miles off the coast of Sussex, which it says will stop trawlers. It claims the barrier will stop fishing in the offshore Brighton Marine Protected Area. Working from the Greenpeace ship Esperanza, activists place granite boulders across 55 square miles of seabed. The organisation has launched a petition to persuade the government not to hand out fishing licences in 2023. A new book about a woman stalking a red deer in Scotland is getting rave reviews from the conservation industry. Hindsight by Jenna Watt makes the link between rewilding, regeneration, environmentalism and the slaughter of Scotland's red deer. According to the book, the number of deer in Scotland has doubled in the past 50 years, making it the largest population in Europe. The author explains why deer are now a pest. There have been bird flu outbreaks close to shoots. DEFRA confirms avian flu in South Molton, Devon, near some of the top pheasant shoots in the country. There have been other bird flu cases at properties in Norfolk, Cornwall and Gwynedd. DEFRA has ordered farm birds locally to be culled, and it has imposed protection zones of around 2 miles from the centre of the outbreaks. The effects on shooting locally will be limited. Staying with bird flu, and in Sweden, vets have identified bird flu in a porpoise. The animal became tangled in seaweed in the south of the country. After it died, the Swedish Veterinary Institute detected influenza viruses in its organs, which it identified as the cause of death. The institute says it's the world's first confirmed case of bird flu in a harbour porpoise. Thanks to Per Holmseth for the story. Zimbabwe has moved 2,500 animals from a reserve in the south of the country to one in the north because of drought. Funded by the photographic tour operator Great Plains Foundation, Zimbabwe is getting $5.5 million to move elephants, impalas, lions and zebras from the Save Valley Conservancy to 3 areas in the north of the country. A government spokesman says many of the areas the animals come from are overpopulated and there is little food or water. The funding lasts 3 years. British boxer Derek Chisora has posted a picture of himself to mark the opening of the partridge shooting season. He posted the picture on Facebook with the caption, "Get your tweed ready, it's shooting season." His fans reacted with delight. Chisora is riding a wave of popularity following news he may face recently unretired heavyweight boxing champion Tyson Fury in December. Angler Charles Jardine is to be inducted into the fly fishing equivalent of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in America. It's the first time the Catskill Fly Fishing Centre and the American Museum has bestowed the honour on a living English person. Charles, who's director of the Countryside Alliance Foundation's Fishing for Schools programme, will receive the recognition at a reception in New York State in October. He says he's shocked by the news.
I was flabbergasted. I was absolutely flabbergasted. I mean, I actually burst into tears, and I'm not given. Yes, I am. To be afforded an accolade and an honour like that in a country that's not your own is quite spectacular, really.
And finally, a missing dog story with a happy ending. Claire Crowther was distraught when her spaniel Meg disappeared in the Peak District. Extensive searches of Saddleworth Moor revealed no clues as to where the dog had gone. The mountain rescue team joined the hunt but came up empty-handed. Claire, who was a farmer, gamekeeper and dog handler, made one more search with the help of her wire-haired Vizsla Dash. The dog was drawn into a deep peat sinkhole and started barking in it. Claire heard an answering bark and was able to pull out Meg. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Buying shooting kits? Then head to Kit Finder and our team will help you find the right product at a fair price from dealers all over the UK. Kit Finder, the shooting kit comparison website.
Thank you, David. Next, we have a problem with firearms licensing across the UK. Surely it's time for a change in how we do things, and here's what that change should be.
It's time to scrap the existing gun certificate system across England and Wales and replace it with another. That's the conclusion of a Basque review that included a series of freedom of information requests to find out the scale of the crisis that firearms licensing faces. In a new report, Basque finds major inconsistencies in the service provided by the 42 separate firearms licensing departments in England and Wales. The figures show that the cost of processing firearms licence applications can differ from different police forces by up to 6 times, as little as £87 in the Somerset and Avon area, but more than £500 in Durham. Basque says firearms licensing inconsistencies are symptomatic of wider police failures.
There are 2 possible alternatives as we see it. One is that you actually would have a centralised firearms licensing. And the hope would be, while certain aspects of firearms licensing would still have to be done locally, you'd still have to have local firearms inquiry officers. But the fact that you had a national overview would hopefully do away with a lot of the differences, sometimes inefficiencies, which are inbuilt into forces.
Significant delays in processing applications has been recorded in different police forces. The average turnaround time is around 40 days in areas like Hertfordshire, but up to 178 days in Cumbria.
It's a really unfair situation on so many shotgun certificate holders and so many firearms licence holders that they're not being treated the same. For a lot of people, their livelihood depends on it. For many people, their fun depends on it. You know, shooting is a sport for many people, and it is just unfair that there are these disparities across the country, and we need to get the 42 police forces to really wake up and understand that this has got a huge impact on the economy, it's got a huge impact on people's lives, it's got a huge impact particularly on farmers who rely on their shotguns for crop protection and pest control. It's just not fair that we're in this situation. We've got to get it right.
Basque says the issues are hurting both the shooting community and the gun trade. It blames police failures for an 8% reduction in certificate holders over the last 2 years. This has led to a loss of 47,000 applicants and a loss of more than £100 million to the economy. Livens Gun Shop in Staffordshire is one of many shops suffering.
They're obviously waiting on their tickets, so they're having to order stuff with us or put deposits down, and then it's affecting us because of storage, you know, because we've got a lot of guns waiting to go out that, you know, people obviously can't walk out the shop with because they haven't got their tickets. People that need them for their work, it's going to have quite a big impact on them, because obviously, you know, if they're doing pest control or deer management or something like that, it is going to cause them issues. So I can understand the frustration.
The report recommends the unification of licensing as seen in Scotland, or the creation of an independent regulator to ensure failing forces are held to account.
Having worked in a small national unit myself, once you take resources from all the 42 forces, someone has to pay for them. Now, the Home Office aren't going to suddenly invent additional money, so the likelihood is if you were to create a national unit for firearms licensing, each of those forces would have to contribute to it. So how much would they have to contribute? Would it depend on how many licence holders you've got? What happens if all the licence holders from one particular area had more appeals than others? So I think saying that all the forces would have to contribute, which is what they generally do for these, would be complicated.
England and Wales are not alone in dealing with delays. The Police Service of Northern Ireland recently declared a critical incident in their firearms and explosives branch, following a backlog of 4,000 individuals. The critical incident is ongoing, as so far nothing has changed.
Critical incident means that you have to actually have chief officer oversight. And I think there are probably some forces which do have major problems, and I'm not sure that perhaps chief officers are fully aware of them. And if they are fully aware of them, it's clear to me that it isn't a priority.
Former Home Secretary Priti Patel's guidance in November 2021 led to several forces slowing or stopping their firearms licensing, with Hampshire Police among many blaming a COVID backlog. Cumbria Police recently suspended its grant service, though it is still dealing with variations and renewals. Bask says that this is likely to become common among forces.
And I think there are quite a number of forces who are probably in that situation. I mean, what Cumbria have done is been upfront. I think there are probably a number of forces that, to all intents and purposes, whilst they might be accepting grants, you know, if you're not processing a grant within 12 to 15 months, then effectively the process is suspended.
The National Police Chiefs Council lead for firearms licensing, Chief Constable Debbie Tedds, says chief officers always have to make difficult operational decisions regarding the allocation of resources based on an assessment of the level of threat and risk in their force areas. The number of applications forces receive also greatly differ across the country, so comparisons in performance are not always feasible. We're working closely with forces to improve the processes behind firearm licensing applications and renewals.
One of the first statements in the Home Office guidelines states that it's a privilege and not a right to own a firearm. And I think back in 2013, a Home Affairs Select Committee looked at firearms licensing as a burden on the police. So that's the position that we're coming from. It's really something they'd rather not have.
Bask hopes the government will take urgent action to tackle the crisis and address the inconsistencies.
Interesting topic, and if the new Home Secretary does address this issue, I hope they remember we have some of the toughest gun laws in the world. Changes in licensing should not be an excuse to make the laws tougher. Now, that piece comes thanks to funding from the Fieldsports Nation, £5 a month. They watch Fieldsports Extra on Tuesday nights, and this week are entering a prize draw to win an Odepro fox and rabbit shooting torch priced at £107. You can click to join the membership and enter the competition, plus take advantage of discounts on thermal optics, clothing and accessories that we've arranged with shops such as Bailey's Shooting and Countrywear. Next, we're back in South Africa with Ollie Williams and the kids who are learning to guide after blesbok.
We now have a big herd of blesbok here, nice old rams that we're going to pursue, and yeah, if we bump a big pig, we'll definitely take him to the salt today as well.
Brilliant, I like that expression, taken to the salt. That's good, yeah. So what are we looking for in a blesbok ram? What makes a good one?
So usually on a blesbok you'll see the horns become white.
Yeah.
That's secondary growth coming through, and then obviously length on the horns.
So that's white horns at the base?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the base, yeah.
We're on the hot, dusty plateau as part of the Northern Cape Professional Hunting School's 15,000 acre ranch. This is where the students guide clients provided for them by the school and where they hunt their own animals. I'm today's client and I've got 3 student guys taking it in turns. Juan is up first.
We have a herd of blesbok up here. So Josh is getting a closer look to see if there's one that's suitable to take. But there's a lot of game moving around, which is good, but also bad, because if we bump them, then they may bump the herd, so we need to be careful where we go. But there is a lot of cover here that we can use. The wind is blowing is fine, so yeah, we should be able to, if there's a good ram in there, I'm sure we can make a way in. Get that big white blesbok. Yeah. Yeah. Because this is the water area. Okay. We can see springbok and we can see hartebeest. Just behind there is a nice white blesbok ram. So we're hopefully going to take him out.
We stalk up to 160 metres, about 180 yards, and Juan has some bad news.
There's red hartebeest looking at us, but the blesbok are still feeding.
Okay.
So the blesbok doesn't know about us. But the red hartebeest is looking at us.
Juan gets me another 100 metres without the herds of animals here making us, but it's getting riskier and riskier.
There's just too much game here. Way too much game, so we can't make a stalk on one species because yeah.
Just wait. I'll tell you when to shoot.
The springbok?
No. Blesbok, but I'll tell you when to shoot. I need to.
Okay. I'm shooting through a tree here. As soon as there's springbok.
Take it on shoulder. Ja, moet je verlengen. Ja, nog kleiner. Okay, I don't see him coming out with the head.
Yeah.
So I think he's fast, just right.
Shot felt good.
Yeah, can you just make 100% sure? Yeah. But I have a shooting line. Yeah, that's good. He's definitely taken the biggest one out of it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You know, lads, that was hard work. Well, no celebrating yet. Mate, that was hard work. You had I was saying, literally, as I was saying to the camera, I think John's almost got an impossible task here because there's so much game. Yeah. And literally, as I said that, you were there like, his reaction looked really good. Yeah. I'd be surprised if he's run off.
He wasn't even running, he was
just like limping. Yeah.
The shot is good. We find the animal almost where I shot it. Well done,
mate. What a great. Cheers, guys. Thank you, Reese. So that's probably the hardest stalk we've had this week. There was just so much game around the whole time, and it was just such a difficult way to get in because everywhere we went, game was snorting and seeing us and moving, and we're almost to the point of saying we're gonna have to turn around because we're gonna be back for a certain time. And there was blue wildebeest snorting, and there was kudu literally right beside us, and suddenly there was blesbok in front of us, just like ghosts. And well, lovely white blesbok I've taken here, it is like a ghost, and they just appeared, and we just took a couple of seconds to get the best ram from the group, went in and made a successful Mr. Shussle shot. I'm not sure if you saw it because it was all so chaotic, and they were gonna, they had that smallest little shooting window before they then moved off and made a half decent shot, and he went down pretty much straight away. So, result.
Last word from Juan.
Is there any significance around blesbok? Why do people like to hunt them?
Because it's a difficult antelope to hunt. As you saw today, blesbok is a very difficult antelope to hunt, and you don't get too close like we did today on the blesbok. So it's a difficult hunt. You shoot about around 200 meters, but our shot today was around about 50 meters.
So what you're saying is you are the god of hunting, yeah? You got me within, 60 metres. That must mean John is the next, prodigy. Well done, mate. Great hunt today.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
For more about the Northern Cape Professional Hunting School, visit ncph.co.za. And if you want to book a hunt there, contact me at cornishsportingagency.com.
Thanks, Ollie, Joanne, Richard and Reese. Not much puts hunting tourism better than Nelson Mandela's face in the photo after he shot a blesbok in 1991. Now to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, brought to you by James Marchington. It is Hunting YouTube.
This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. With the UK wildfowling season underway, here's one from the American Midwest. Mindak Outdoors are setting up layout blinds before dawn and getting some exciting goose shooting over decoys. More layout blinds in this one from opening day of the season in Alberta. They're set up right among the decoys and have a hectic 17-minute flight of mallard and pintail. Meanwhile, in the Great Lakes, the Flush travel by boat to the Beaver Island complex in the middle of Lake Michigan to hunt ruffed grouse and woodcock over pointers. Spanish hunter Pedro Ampuero travels the world in search of adventure. In this beautifully made video, he's after red stags in Scotland with Neil Rowntree, learning about the landscape, the deer, and their management. Viking's Andy Norris is also heading to Scotland. He visits Chris Dalton for a week's roebuck stalking with the Ruger Ranch rifle, a Leupold VX3 scope, and Cellier & Bellett's lead-free ammo. AM Bushcraft and Hunting starts this one with a warning that it contains graphic pest control, and it doesn't disappoint with plenty of scope camera footage of shooting corvids around the farmyard. Dave Carey's latest film follows a family partridge day he organised at the famous Water Priory shoot in East Yorkshire, with plenty of birds and some impressive shooting. And if you've been lucky enough to get some early season partridge shooting, you'll be wondering how to cook your brace. Well, here's a great spatchcock recipe from Ely Hawk's celebrity chef James Golding. That's it for this week. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the I symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email Charlie the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv.
Well, that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please whiz over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv. Click to like us there on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page, and we'll contact you about this show, Fieldsports Britain. It's at 7 p.m. UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.